Okay, loan versus bailout. Now, as is obvious, I'm not gonna talk rocket science in this video. There are two important things that I wanna discuss. First, why do we end up in a situation where we need either of the two? And second, what happens if we don't opt for either of the two? Now, what is basically a loan? A borrower needs money and the lender has got that money. The borrower borrows that money from the lender. The lender gives that money to the borrower because if he won't, then his money is lying useless with him. But when he lends that money, he not only gets the money back, he also gets the interest back. Interest, which is compound interest, interest on top of interest. That is the incentive for the lender to lend money. The borrower needs money, that's his incentive to take the money. However, the loan is provided in lieu of a security. The borrower gives the lender something valuable in the form of security that if he fails to repay the loan or the interest, the lender can sell off the security and recover his investment. But this security is what makes a loan different from a bailout or an austerity measure. In case of a loan, the security that you provide, you get that security back once you have paid the loan or interest. But in case of austerity measures or bailout, the security that you provide, you don't get that security back. Depending upon the terms and conditions of the bailout or austerity, these things talk about reforms. What are the reforms? So we are getting to that point. The security that you're providing is that you are giving the organization or the people associated with those organizations some kind of leeway, which you will not be able to back out from. So it is basically someone abusing your financial condition to put pressure on you to do something which you wouldn't have done otherwise. Now, this brings up the questions like, why would someone be interested in something which you won't give otherwise? And who those people are? Now, someone who thinks that governments all over the world are struggling to run their own nations because they just don't have the money. United States has got trillions of dollars of debt. The same is true for India, and budgets everywhere are running in deficit. That is, the government is not generating as much money as much it is investing in the nations. Then who would be interested in lending you the money? Who has got the money? It's the big business corporations who have got the money. So every time you talk of reforms, what those reforms are they reforms really meant to empower your own nation's small businessman, the ordinary man? Or are these reforms meant to allow businessmen who are not associated with your nation to come and invest in your nation in a way that their investment will there be permanent, and they will be permanently taking some income out of your nation? In that case, you haven't just lost the security that you earlier had, where you had a strict control over who does business with your nation and what goes out of your economy. You have not only lost that security, but the money that you have got initially to do something for your nation, you're going to lose a lot more money subsequently from your nation. So you're not only paying back the loan and the interest, but you are going to lose a lot more than that. Now that is the basic difference between loan and a bailout. You don't get your security back. But before we go into any more detail, it's important to understand why we end up in a situation where we need such measures. Why do governments run in deficit? Governments run in deficit primarily because of two reasons. Firstly, they give a lot of subsidies to their citizens. So just so that the citizen can have slightly marginally better lifestyle than what they would have without those subsidies. So in that case, the government is not getting that much money out of the economy in the form of taxes, but is putting more money into the economy. So that better lifestyle is artificial, and it is bound to fail at some stage where the government will not be able to sustain those subsidies. The second reason is we, the people, we are ourselves responsible for what we face today or what our posterity is going to face tomorrow. Now, I love this word posterity. I use it a lot. Why do I talk about posterity all the time? Now, every time we do something which we know is wrong, we shouldn't be doing, but we still do it because it's not gonna make any difference to us, like carbon emissions and all that stuff, all the pollution, all the rubbish, all the plastic rubbish that we are dumping. We are not worried about it today because it is not going to impact us. But these are wrong, and they are ultimately going to accumulate and inflict a lot more pain on someone. Who that someone will be? Our posterity. So that's why I talk about our posterity all the time, because if our ancestors were as big idiots as we were, as selfish as we are, we would have been living in a lot worse world than what we are living in today. But anyway, before we lose track of what we are discussing, we, the people who work for government departments, we work inefficiently. We are corrupt. We do our jobs in a way which causes either losses to our departments, or our departments fail to generate as much revenue as much they would have if we had worked diligently. We ourselves make our governments lose money, and that's the money which is going missing in the form of deficit. And of course, there are bigger reasons like the corruption at higher levels where the politicians sell the nations, but that's another topic for another video altogether. But the thing is, we ourselves lead our societies into a situation where we run out of money to run our own nations. I'll give you an example from India, a very recent example. One of the chief ministers of a state has given subsidy on electricity, and he says that he is doing that by stopping electricity theft. Now, firstly, who were the people who were stealing electricity? It was we, the ordinary people, who were stealing electricity. So we were causing losses to our government. And then secondly, now as far as giving subsidies to people are concerned, now the people who were getting electricity for free, they are actually paying. So it hasn't benefited them, but it has benefited the rest of the population. Or so we are supposed to believe. And we are supposed to believe that the electricity theft was so big that just by controlling those theft, the government has been able to give subsidies. But the problem is, stopping the theft is one thing, but the extra money that you make by stopping the theft, does that have to be given back in the form of subsidies? Aren't there better ways to give that money back to the people? Couldn't there be a lot more improvement done around the whole state to benefit the people in a much bigger way? Subsidy will only help your budget individually at small levels. It won't affect your quality of life because you would be using more electricity or perhaps doing something stupid. It won't improve your society outside the four walls of your home. But if you hadn't given that subsidy, but instead invested that money in doing some improvement in the world outside people's homes, that would have improved the quality of life in the state. And now, if I'm going to give all the ideas to the people that you elect to run your governments, then shouldn't I be the one running your government? And how long am I going to give them all the ideas and all the answers and all the solutions? We talk about mineral water, how it's better than tap water. And then we talk about spring water, mineral water from springs, natural, healthy, clean. Now it's another thing that even the spring water is not that clean because of all the pollutants that we pump into the atmosphere and all that rain that comes down at the sources of springs. But the point is, spring water is clearer than most other water. The further you live away from the spring, the further you live downstream, the more impurities it collects. And the worse that water becomes in quality. So if I am the spring, if I am giving you all the solutions and they are going to listen to what I'm going and then do it, then you are getting it from a third person, from a third person's perspective. Like, it's getting diluted at every stage. Anyways, that's a lot of ranting. Now that said and done, the thing is, what happens in case we don't go for austerity measures? Let's take the example of Greece. What's happening in Greece? Now, if Greece does not take the bait, does not bite the bait, and refuses to take the austerity measures, every effort will be made clandestinely to make sure that the people of Greece do not succeed in rescuing their economy. Why? Because if Greece was to set up an example that you can survive without selling yourself, who will take money? Who will take austerity from the people who are willing to give austerities? They are going to lose a lot more than what Greece is going to lose. But what would happen if Greece really refuses to take those austerity? Firstly, it means the life for the immediate generation and for the next generation is going to be a lot more tough than what it would be if the Greece takes austerity measures. But what these two generations will build, the third generation will be proud of their work, and it will be in a position where it would not need any austerity and it would have a really good quality of life. Now, why I'm saying that? Why is the life going to be tough? Greece would need money to run, the government would need money to run things around in Greece, to provide employment to people. With that money not available and the international debt still hanging fire on the Greece neck, what options do the people have? They won't have the option of government jobs. And there won't be private businesses because people don't have the money. You're pushing the society back by quite a few decades. You'll have to start afresh from the ground level. You'll have to start afresh from the basic groundwork, like from the basic jobs like farming and handicrafts and works like where the repairsmen and all that stuff. Like right now, we are living a life where we buy gadgets every day. Once that gadget becomes useless, we chuck that in the rubbish and we buy a new one. But you are looking at a life where you buy a gadget and you probably live 2 decades with that gadget. Every time that gadget breaks down, rather than replacing it, you go and get that fixed. That's the kind of life you're looking for. There will not be money in the real estate market because people won't have the money to buy properties. The real estate markets will crash. But is that really bad? That only means that houses will be available for cheap, provided people have the money to buy those houses. People might have to live in shared accommodations a lot more than what they have to now. So many of those things will happen, in which case the first decade or so would be really tough. The things will start easing out by 2 decades mark. And of course, that's why I said that the next generation will have to suffer a bit as well. But this is happening because your previous 4 generations were idiots, or, well, let's just leave it at idiots. Because your previous 4 generations didn't do what they needed to do, this generation and next generation will have to suffer. But if your 2 generations will suffer now, the third generation will benefit. And when I say suffer, what is suffering? What is happiness in life? You are with your family, you are with your friends, you are amongst the people that you love. You are happy. You share moments. You may not have the money to fly overseas every year for an overseas vacation. But who says you need an overseas vacation to have fun? You could just go on camping and travel intercity just to enjoy what's available locally. It's not that life will be bad or tragic. It's just that it won't be as easy as it is now. As I gave the example, you can't chuck out what you don't need anymore. You have to repair it and live with it for as long as you can. These are tough decisions. But tough people make tough decisions, and tough people create history. The choice is always with you.